Hey y'all. Okay, so I know some of you will be joining me momentarily. I'm not gonna do like an audience build, but I do want to get this party started. So the topic of today's video is destigmatizing mental health in ethnic communities. And I'm going to be reading off of my notes because I didn't want to miss any points on this one. So you may see me looking away to look at my notes, and I wanted to be very clear about my point of view and in my experience. Is this is not a rant. This is sort of like a public service announcement. What inspired me to do this video for you guys today is that I watched the Channel 5 on mental health and well-being. The reason why Channel 5 decided to do this ongoing segment from 4:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. today was because there has been a spike since the pandemic in the area of mental health where people are in crisis or seeking support, realizing they have anxiety, realizing they're depressed, realizing they are an addict, or whatever may be going on. In this segment, I will be talking about why, my views on why there is such stigma around mental health in the ethnic melanated people of color community in our community. Um, and make aware of the things that I know from my lived experience and how I have been looking at the situation. I am the new outreach coordinator for RCC Recovery Connections Community in Brockton. And one thing I noticed is that we are trying to bring more people of color into this community. Also, when I volunteered at the Metro Boston Recovery Learning Center, which I still do from time to time, volunteering in these communities, there's not too many people of color. Though I have colleagues and peers who are following and making awareness of the Black Lives Matter movement and empowering our black community in other ways by creating financial support, meetings, groups, teachings, and lectures on financial support. We're doing spiritual health. We have churches on every corner. There's AA and NA meetings all over the ethnic community for people to get support with recovery, with substance abuse recovery and addiction. However, there's just like a disparity when it comes to mental health. And so I want to talk a little bit about that. And I want you guys to feel free to send, to post your comments and post your ideas, your lived experiences. Resources are always useful. I'm going to be coming back to the video and posting resources in the comments. I can't do it right now while I'm live because there'll be feedback. So yeah, I'm going to get started. So like I said, I was watching the Channel 5 all through the evening, and you can also, and I'll post a link to these videos, and here's what I took from it, and this is what inspired me to do this video for you today. So first of all, shout out to and thank you to WZVB News, Channel 5 ABC, for having this segment, this day of awareness and enlightenment on mental health and well-being, and showcasing how it has affected everyone because of the pandemic and the spike in what's been going on. So also shout out to and thank you to Toy Burton of Dee Dee's Cry, which is another organization. Toy Burton is a woman of color, and she has an organization that is geared towards suicide awareness and prevention. You can go find her on Facebook, and she's everywhere, and she's great. Also, shout out to Dr. Ken Duckworth of NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness. He was on one of the segments on Channel 5, and I have worked with him a few times within the community. He's an awesome spirit. He voices his opinion any chance that he gets the chance to talk about mental illness and destigmatizing it just for all people in general. Also, a shout out and thank you to Dr. Ann Whitman, the co founder of the Metro Boston Recovery Learning Center and Community, for speaking up and out about mental health recovery and resources during the 5 on mental health well being today. I enjoy working with you all on the mission to fight stigma of these issues and will continue to work with these great people and organizations. Also, I can't forget to a nod to the great Howard Trackman for steering the movement against restraints and seclusions for people in institutions. If you haven't already seen, you can Google search, and I will try to leave a link after I do this video in the comments, so look out for that. You can Google search WZVB on mental health and well-being and watch the segments that are posted on the topic. Today I'm making this video to share concern on the mental health crisis following the pandemic and to share concern of the stigma associated with mental health in ethnic communities in particular. So I'm going to go on with some statistics that was shared on the segments, and also some statistics that I have in my arsenal as well, which is one of them. According to Mass Association of Mental Health, 56% increase of depression and anxiety in young adults ages 18 to 24. Also, 41% increase in adults since COVID. Okay? So this is very serious. This is very serious. That is a big increase. And I have touched on my videos before during the pandemic saying how a lot of people will come out of this pandemic having anxiety or PTSD or depression or, substance abuse, statistics of mental health for persons of color. I have a link for that. Hold on. Okay. Black and African American communities and mental health. 13.4% of the U.S. population identifies as Black or African American. Of those, over 16% reported having a mental illness in the past year. That is over 7 million people. Okay? That is more people than the populations of Chicago, Houston, and Philadelphia combined. Okay? And there's some more statistics. I will leave a link so you guys can read up more on that. According to NAMI, 1 in 5 adults annually report struggling with mental health, and 1 in 6 ages 6 through 17 report struggling with a mental health. Okay? So those are some of the statistics. I will be coming back, like I said, to share those and those links that involve that. Moving on. I want to say this list that I created. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to ask for a practitioner of color. It's okay to not share anything you feel uncomfortable with or censor your response to sensitive questions. However, note that practitioners cannot help if they don't know what's going on. And this can delay your recovery. But also, recovery takes courage, and it's baby steps that still get us places. So even if you don't feel comfortable about sharing your trauma with that therapist or that practitioner or that friend or peer in a moment, you may in a year or in 2 months or the next time you get comfortable with that person, you may feel comfortable sharing these things. It's okay to say no to medications. Medication is not for everyone. It's okay to participate in a group or peer therapy, even if you sit in the back when you don't feel comfortable sharing your struggle. The main objective is to be in a safe space where you can recognize you are not alone and there is support. Okay, so we're going to let the cat out the bag now. Why is there such a stigma of mental health resources in communities with people of color? That's a question I generated just pondering within, volunteering in these communities and visiting different sites and organizations that are geared toward mental health and recovery. So, why is there such a stigma of mental health resources in communities with people of color? I don't know. I don't know. But what I do know from my experience is we people of color have pushed these resources out. The reason I say this is because when I was growing up, my teachers would tell my parents that I needed mental health support for behavioral issues. And it wasn't that my parents were in denial as much as they were in fear or intimidated by the system, probing and risking taking us, the children, away or being filed to DCF for neglect or abuse. We come from communities of color that has been persecuted, discriminated, exploited against by every institution and programs that infiltrated our community. The proof is in our school system, in our struggle to pay bills, find adequate work, mass incarceration, and our struggle to parent our children in an organic nature. Hence why I say it's okay to not accept medications for your mental health recovery, which carries me to the next point. There has been, not sure if it's still going on, but a global pharmaceutical conspiracy and agenda to exterminate people of color through these infiltrating institutions like schools, medical care, food, prisons, gang and street violence, drugs, and others for an uncounted, undocumented amount of years. You can look up some of Dr. Umar Johnson's rants on this topic of black boys being drugged for false ADHD, ADD diagnosis. Okay? I'll try to find a link for Dr. Umar Johnson's rants on this topic. These agendas have left us people of color in fear of seeking help for ourselves, family members, and our children because of the probing into our lives to not help but to persecute us even further into a corrupted system. We can't forget how we as a community have persecuted and judged each other for talking about depression by being called lazy and labeled as complainers or being outcasted for hearing voices and that weren't there, told we are just attention seekers and being gaslighted by those we may have entrusted with this sensitive information. The Me Too movement has opened the conversation to talk about our sexual trauma, especially in the black community. However, we have not realized the recovery resources needed to combat these traumas and lead healthy lives and foster healthy relationships with others. However, there is a new objective to offer these support in communities of color, and there has been a generational shift in our minority society where it's easier to receive and provide support for us, people of color, by people of color. I will link some resources below. How can we destigmatize mental health in black community? This is the second question. Creating a safe space for conversation about resources and support. Here's a rant. Our meetings can't always be about money, spirituality, healthy eating, and exercise when we haven't even addressed the core traumas us melanated people have faced and begin overcoming them. So many times I see my melanated peers talk about money, fashion, art, knowledge, healthy eating, God, and so on and so forth. But when I step in the room and say, let's address these traumas, nobody wants to talk about it. We destigmatize by recognizing as a community one of the 8 dimensions of wellness is emotional health. And I'll leave a link to what the 8 dimensions of wellness are. Or you can do your own research and go Google 8 dimensions of wellness. They have Google Images to show you a map of what that looks like. They have worksheets that you can print out and do on that. So my next question is, why is it imperative to see a trained individual or professional for mental health if it arises? Because your family and friends may not be trained or equipped to handle or coach you in your recovery. Mental health is a very serious thing, and it's important that we recognize who we can trust with our emotional information and who we can't. There are pros and cons to venting to your friends and family, and there are pros and cons to seeing a therapist or practitioner or counselor or a medical professional for your mental health. What can we do as untrained professionals if someone we care about is struggling with mental health? Very simple. Listen. Don't judge. Don't repeat what they say to others, and persuade them to seek a professional. So some resources I will link below are the 8 dimensions of wellness, the Just Ask campaign, how the pandemic has affected mental health. That's a hashtag, Just Ask. I will also be linking how you can, some videos of the WCVB news segment that talks about just the Just Ask campaign. The National Alliance of Mental Illness, you can Google them. The Suicide Prevention Hotline, 1-800-273-TALK. Text C2T to 741-741. You can also reach out to us, me, myself, Priestess Ziana, and Reverend Dr. Norma at amroninternational.org. And we are trained in peer recovery. We are trained in our lived experience in recovery, and to be able to support others and help you get resources and other support from even more trained and more experienced professionals as well. You can also see a list of posted resources on the amroninternational.org website. Also, the BEST team in Boston, Boston's emergency services team. They are there to help people in mental health crisis. If someone you know is in a mental health crisis, psychosis, wanting to harm themselves or others, or believe that someone is harming them, you can call the BEST team. They can come to your house. They will give you a brief psych evaluation to see if you need to be hospitalized or not. And they will provide transportation to an emergency room or psych services. I will leave that link as well. So if someone is in a psychosis crisis, You do not call the police. You do not call 911, or you try not to, because I mean, gratefully, we live in Massachusetts and mostly in Boston. They can recognize if someone's in psychosis and they're trained to call the best team or emergency services. They won't arrest them and send them to jail. However, if you call 911 on someone who's in a mental health crisis, you can make matters very worse. Okay? For the person that needs the care. Okay? So, another resource is on Facebook. There's a Facebook group called the Mental Health Advocates and Practitioners of Color, Boston. Okay? I am a member of this group. It is full of lovely men and women of color who care about this issue, about mental health and recovery. They are practitioners, they are licensed professionals, they are peers with lived experience, they are trained peers, they are people who you can relate to, and it's for people of color. If you want to find a practitioner of color in Boston to seek mental health support, you can go to this group. Also, Toy Burton is a member of this group as well, and she posts there often. You will find Aisha Deed, you will find Valeria Chambers. These are great women of color from different levels of treatment and care that they offer, and that you can find resources and help. DMH, the Department of Mental Health in Massachusetts, they're a resource that can help you navigate getting resources like housing, um, medical bills for psych beds. You may have to pay for a bed in a psych institute. DMH can help you get funding. They can help you get mass health. Um, the Massachusetts Association of Mental Health, they have conferences, and they have events where they offer awards to people who are doing remarkable things in the mental health community. And there's so many other resources that are out there. I cannot even begin to name them all. Um, but like I said, this is a very important thing to realize, that even if you don't feel like your issues are so intense that you have to seek a medical professional or a psychiatric professional, you can seek someone like me, who is a peer who's trained in trauma, to who can relate to you and to have compassion for you and not judge you. And we can just talk, and you can just vent, and you can also ask for advice and resources for when things get out of hand. It's good to just have that backup, that extra support, on your fridge or in your wallet. You know what I mean? These resources are like, even if you may not need them, your children might need them. Your family, someone in your family or your circle might need these supports. And it's, we don't want to judge. It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to ask for help. It's okay to see a therapist and not get meds for it. There's a lot of people living functioning lives with mental health diagnosis that are not on medication, and all they do is go to group therapy, they do coping skills, they practice self-care, they take space, take times out, and that's fine. I want to probably do a video furthermore in the near future about different ways that it may look like if you go to seek help, like what it may look like if you call the suicide prevention hotline. What will they do? How will they support you? And what it may look like if you call the best team. What it may look like if you find a psychiatrist in your area that you get along with, or how to navigate getting out of a nurse practitioner or a psychiatrist that you do not get along with, or a therapist you do not like. It's a process, and it's a journey. You have to be willing to want the help and receive the help. But I don't want us to keep brushing this under the rug as a melanated community, as a melanated species, because of the trauma. I like to call it post traumatic slave syndrome. It's not always a white person or another ethnic group out to get us. And yes, it has happened. They have, I can admit, like, I have been discriminated against. I have been persecuted because I'm a young black woman. And I have been in programs where I was the only black person there, let alone being the only black girl there receiving help. And it's very uncomfortable. But now we have a new generation of practitioners ushering in, of color, women, men, single parents, people who do regular day things in the community. We're doing yoga, we're doing healthy eating, we're doing business planning, we're doing spiritual warfare, we're doing yoga, we're doing so much in the community. We have to take this mental health stuff as serious as possible. Because one of the first things you have to wake up to in the morning is your mind. Before you think about money, before you think about going to work, you wake up to your mind. And your mind has to set your plans for the day in motion. Like, okay, I'm going to get up and get this money. Or I'm going to get up and achieve these goals. And I'm going to get up and go to school. Your mind has to be well. We can't gear all of our resources in the black community on money and building wealth and buying houses and buying stock and this, if we're not addressing these traumas. Like I said, the Me Too movement has opened. I'm not going to make this a long video, but the Me Too movement has opened up a conversation, a platform of, there's a lot of sexual trauma in the black community. It's not about being a man or a woman. It's just there. It's just in the world. So we have traumas because of that, and it's affecting our relationship with our spouse. It's affecting our relationship with our parents. It's affecting our relationship with our kids. And that's because we have said me too, but what are we doing about it? Are we seeking therapy? Are we going to, it's not even about being sick. Don't wait until everything falls and piles up on you to get a counselor, to get a therapist, to get on a medication, to change your diet, to start going to church, to start taking care of yourself as a whole, hence the 8 dimensions of wellness. So, this is awesome. Thanks for tagging me. Peer support is essential. We need to connect with people that understand on a loved experience level. Exactly. Thank you, Naisha Deed. She's remarkable. Baby steps don't get us places. Sometimes we do things when we have lived experience and we're working in this field. It's baby steps. We can only do so much at once, but baby steps don't get us places. And I hope this video finds everyone well, and I hope that we can pick up and learn something from this video and circulate it, because it's important that we discuss this stuff, in a safe, fun-loving way. It doesn't have to be so gloomy and sad and depressing to talk about trauma. I have evolved so much in my recovery that sometimes when I talk to my peers that have lived experience, we laugh at some of the things we put ourselves through because of our diagnosis, or some of the things that we've been through, and we can laugh about it, or we can cry about it, or it's okay to be upset, express that upsetness and that anger appropriately. It doesn't have to be aggressive, so thank you so much. You are loved, you are peace, and have a great evening. Ciao.